Hey guys, how you guys doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch this video that we made for you guys. Before we get into today's video though, I'd like to ask you to please hit that thumbs up button, the subscribe button, and even that notification button. And hey, if you've been hanging around out there in the ether for a while, enjoying the podcast, enjoying the content that we got coming at you, and you really want to help support the channel, there's two things you could do. You could either hit that join button down below, like $1.99 to join the channel, become a member of the channel, and it helps. Every little dime helps. Or you can go over to Buy Me a Coffee and buy us a coffee over there. The links are in the description down below. And of course, the join button is just right below the video. Today's video, we're going to take a look at why you cannot install Windows applications on Linux. I get asked that question a lot. So let's do it. All right. So I get asked in our Discord all the time. By the way, guys, if you're not in our Discord, you kind of need to, because we have lots of cool activities that go on in there. As far as like every night, there's people in the voice chat always hanging out, helping each other install different distributions or teaching people about different distributions. I'm in there helping people fix their computers sometime. As you saw on the podcast, how Josh, our moderator, got found and how he became an active member of the community. We helped him fix the computer, me and Frungles both together. So you might want to hop over into our Discord. The link's down in the description down below. Join it, have fun, hang out, donate to the community, give back whatever your experience is, or just ask those noob questions that you need to ask out there that maybe a lot of places are giving you a lot of flack for. Because I've had people come and do that in the Discord. They've joined our Discord because they were getting too much flack somewhere else. But either way, we'd love to have you there, so make sure you do that. So, have you ever tried to install a Windows application on a Linux operating system? Chances are you might have encountered some difficulties for sure, because I know I did when I tried it. And it even failed to open the application at all. I was shocked. I'm like, what the hell? So when I first started with Linux, I just didn't even know what was going on. I didn't know, what the hell was, happening as far as like why, how to get applications and stuff like that, because there weren't really, I mean, it was very limited on applications. It was actually very limited on driver support. It was very limited on a lot of things when it came to using Linux back in those. But thankfully, over time, more developers have come. They've done many more things. You've also got the inception of cross-platform applications. You've got Linux that has actually grown by leaps and bounds. And I mean, it just chomping at the bit to become a very viable alternative to both Mac and Linux. And Windows. So you're starting to have a lot less failure on those things. But the truth of the fact is we're still pretty far away. We're close, but we're close in enough sense that we're still kind of far away. And that is simply because of one reason. And a lot of people wonder, well, why is it? Why can't you just like do a put a Linux application through a conversion tool that'll repackage it, format it in a way that Linux can use it, right? Well, it isn't just that. It's not that simple. A lot of it has to understand. You have to understand the reason behind this is that really Windows in and of itself will never make it easy that way because it's proprietary. Okay, Windows is an operating system that is owned, maintained, and controlled, and everything that is touching it in any way, shape, or form, whether it's the way a game is written, whether it's an application is written for, is written in a specifically proprietary way that Windows controls, that Microsoft controls. On the other hand, Linux is an open source operating system, which means that the source code is freely disseminated by many people, and so many developers and coders can write codes to create applications that are just shared freely. Other people see it, fix whatever little flaws are in it, and then move on. Windows applications are designed and developed specifically for the Windows operating system, and they are written in a programming language called Win32 API, which is strictly proprietary to Microsoft. This means that the code used to create Windows applications is not open source. It is not compatible, and with other operating systems like Linux, it just will never work. So that's the long and short of it, right? It's basically that coding language. By the way, if you haven't figured it out, this is definitely going to be a talking head video. I apologize for not giving you that warning a little bit earlier, but we are doing a talking head. Linux, on the other hand, uses a different set of programming languages and API, such as GNOME and KDE, to create its applications. Their devs create these applications because they are desktop environments. These are open source and are not compatible with Windows applications. So when you try to run Windows applications on a Linux system, the operating system simply does not understand the code because a lot of it's done in C++, Java, all these different coding languages back there. Rust is being a new one that's written out that things are working on. But I do understand, from what I understand, I think they are they're wanting to use Rust in Windows as well. I believe I read somewhere that that's true. Don't quote me hard on that. I'm not a developer. PSA, I'm not a developer, so it may be something that I misread or misunderstood and something that I read. But the coding languages are different for Linux versus the Win32 API. That's the long and short of it. And so it won't allow any of the installers to execute for Microsoft, even if you do it and you save it in a .exe file. It just will not do it. So really, the another reason why Windows apps cannot run Linux on Linux is due to the difference in the file system. So because the file system is not, in Windows it's NTFS, while Linux uses either ext4, ext3, BTRFS, XFS, and ZFS. I mean, there's many different file systems that are out there that are able to be used in Linux. These file systems are not compatible in any way, shape, or form. So Windows can't even understand what the file structure is to try to install anything into that file structure. And Linux can't install the Windows application into it either because it doesn't read it. Which means that even if you try to manage to get a Windows application to run on Linux, it will not be able to access the necessary files and folders to function properly because it's not going to want to put them in the right folder structure. That like your DLLs go in your Win32 DLL libraries, stuff like that, or 64 DLLs will go into 64 DLLs. I mean, those folders just don't exist in Linux, so therefore you're never going to get that folder anywhere. So it won't be able to create the folder, and it won't know to put the DLL in there. So nothing will work. So what can you do if you need to use a Windows application on Linux? Well, that is the question, because that is what a lot of people want to get into, a false fail-safe situation, because there's one way to do it that a lot of people are adopting, that people have literally developed distributions on, like React OS, Ubuntu, to tell you just a few of them out there that are not worth a doggone because their promises are false. And what they say is that you could run Windows applications on Linux. Okay, that's a fallacy. And the reason why that's a fallacy is because the one thing that those guys are leaning heavily on is called a compatibility layer called Wine, which allows some Windows applications to run on Linux. However, it's not guaranteed solution at all. And some applications may still work properly, and another one will just not even work at all. They just won't work. They just won't fire up. They'll just, like, you'll click on it, the wheel will, it'll spin like it's going to do something, then all of a sudden it just doesn't do anything. Nothing opens up. Needs something else from other DLL, some dynamic link library. I don't, I'm not a programmer. I don't know exactly what it needs, but for some reason, it just won't work. More often than not, that's the case. That it's missing one little thing that will not let it work. And even if you do, it'll be buggy as hell. If you do get it to work, it'll be buggy as hell and it'll crash on you and stuff like that. It'll not be stable or anything like that. So that is something that a lot of people are finding themselves in these crux with these types of distributions that are saying, well, we can run Windows applications, no problem. No, you can't. They're lying. And then what they want to do, like in the instance of Ubuntu, is they want to freaking get you to buy their tech support for them to be able to tell you, sorry, we don't know why it doesn't work. We tried. It must be some problem with Wine. There's nothing we can do. We don't develop for Wine. We did the best we can do. And now they've bilked you for money. You loaded this thing. You've completely switched over to, Ubuntu or React OS. And React doesn't, I think, have any support like Ubuntu does. But they bilked you for money and they've left you for one. Well, that's what this video is here for, to warn you against. So another option is to use, and this is the better option, is to use an actual virtual machine. So if you're this, you could do on any Linux distribution out there. You don't need to get into a target specific distribution that says we can guarantee you could run Windows applications on our disk. Bullshit. No. No. Fucking no. Stay away. If you absolutely need to use a Windows application for whatever reason that is, just because of comfort, just because whatever, and you want to make switch to Linux, this is your best option, is that virtual machine that I just talked about. Which what that does is it allows you to run Windows operating system in your Linux system using a machine that you install within your machine using either VirtualBox, Virt Manager, QEMU/KVM, which you don't need Virt Manager to do it, but Virt Manager is a nice graphical front end for it. Or Proxmox, which allows you to install as many VM machines, virtual machines, into the system, and one of them could be your Windows one, where you just go in and you just install Windows into it. It runs it in a virtual environment. You can use it, shut it down, do whatever you need to do with it, and then shut it down, and voila, you're back to your regular Linux desktop, and you're good to go. So this requires a little bit more resources as far as CPU, RAM, being able to pass through your USB ports, that kind of stuff. And it may not be 100% feasible or stable for older hardware, what they call potato laptops, but nonetheless, it's a viable option that could benefit a lot of people. So you may need to upgrade something here or there or whatever, or maybe your whole machine, whatever, to make it run. But that is the other method of doing it and the most stable method of doing it. So, in conclusion, the reason why you can't run Windows apps on Linux is simply because of the fundamental differences in the operating system, the coding languages, and the actual file system. That's it. If those three were to get aligned by some freaking miracle, which, as much as Windows seems to be copying from Linux and trying to implement as much of Linux as it can into itself, that may be something that happens in 2029. Who knows? But I don't know. I'm not trying to be facetious. I mean, it seems like more and more that Windows is saying, hey, that's a really good idea that Linux has over there. So let's try that. And they're implementing it through either the WSL or their sudo in their server. I mean, those are a couple of examples. But either way, that is the two workarounds that most people use. It's not always possible to run Windows applications on Linux, period. If you are deciding to migrate to Linux from Windows, one of the things I'll tell you is that maybe before you leave Windows, you should try finding some alternative cross-platform applications that will work on Windows, Mac, and Linux if that's viable for you. A lot of the Office compatibility, like I said, I think OpenOffice is the closest one. That's almost a one-to-one copy of Microsoft Office, not the same, or just use the Office 365 online. Make sure that you research and find these alternatives for the Windows applications that you use regularly and try them out before you make the switch. See if it's something that you can actually do. If not, then definitely consider doing like download, because I know you can use VirtualBox in Windows. So what I would do is I would download VirtualBox, get it running, get it going in Windows, install your Windows in your virtual machine, set that up, try everything out that you need in it through VM to know that yes, it works, I can do it. And then when you install Linux, just install VirtualBox into Linux, or you can do QEMU/KVM in there and use it that way, and be able to use either one of those virtual machines on your Windows desktop, and go ahead and try it out there, get it all dialed in, so that way you can still keep doing your production on Windows while you're setting up your Windows environment. And then when you're ready to make the jump, you could either save that VM to like an external hard drive, and then just copy it over into your folder where your VMs go, for VirtualBox or QEMU, whichever one. Copy that over, boot up into it, and you're good to go. And you're already set up. Or you could just reinstall a new one, set it up again, and boom, you're good to go. But either way, that is the most viable and most confident way that I will tell you that you could run Windows applications in Linux on. It's basically the reverse of Windows Subsystem for Linux. It's Linux Subsystem for Windows. LSW. Ha! I just coined something new. Guys, thanks for watching the video. We hope this video helped you understand why you can't run Windows apps on Linux. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It only helps out the channel. Also, consider joining the channel either here on YouTube or buy me a coffee. And as always, I will simply tell you, y'all keep doing what you do. Stay safe, stay blessed. And above all, I will see you in the very next